All right, welcome to the Fourth Floor, an extension of Five on the Floor here in the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. I've been brought out of retirement because Jonathan Ramlakan has the night off, as do Marco and Mateo, and Gad is big timing it, taking my credential at the arena tonight, along with Brady and Alex. So it's just me and my Bahamian friend here, who I hung out with at training camp when things were a lot happier for the Heat, actually.
Such a different season.
Very different. Who knew, right? It doesn't feel like 25 games ago. Timothy Bain, you can follow him on Twitter, as I cough in your face. Timmy with a whole bunch of M's and a whole bunch of A's. We will get into the Heat and the Clippers tonight. Again, as I mentioned, Gad, Brady, and Alex are all at the game tonight. I recommend that you check out the episode that we did last night on Five on the Floor, where we pretty much broke it down to say who's to blame for what's happened so far. Again, 25 games into the season, 11-14, only 5 teams have
worse. Are you sure that's not the reason why you're not at the game, Ethan?
No, I don't. I mean, if they win tonight, they're not going to let me back in. But I will say this: 25th in the league in net rating, only 5 teams worse. Those 5 teams were all considered to be tanking teams entering the season. The Heat just lost to one of them, and they play another one, the Spurs, on Saturday. Let's get to our sponsors before we go forward here. Our friend Mark Brown. You can find him at marcbrownpa.com. The man with the plan. He's still a Heat fan here. He's hanging in there right now. A couple things that Mark can do for you. He can help you set up an estate plan, which is really important for you. If you have kids, you need to have an estate plan. Make sure you've earned your money. Make sure it goes to the right place. Enough of it's gone to Uncle Sam, right? So make sure that your money's going to the right place. If something happens to you, you don't want it stuck in probate or anything like that. It doesn't matter if you don't have that much. You still want to make sure it goes to the right person or the right people. So reach out to Mark. He'll help you fill out the forms. It's real simple. It's not expensive. 954-566-5678, 954-566-5678. And Mark is based in North Broward, right around Cypress and Andrews, if you're familiar with that area, right around Cypress Creek. Also, he can help you if you are closing on a real estate property. He'll help you get that closing done. He's done that for me a couple of times, including a couple of difficult situations that he was able to sort out for me. So reach out to Mark, marcbrownpa.com. Also, we do always mention prize picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. We just did a prize pick show. I will tell you, Timmy, I kind of like Tyler Hero in the first half tonight at 10.5 points, because let's go through it. Let's see who's playing and who's not playing. For the Miami Heat, no Kyle Lowry, no Gabe Vincent. Jimmy Butler's questionable. I heard today he was going to play. I don't know if they've officially announced that, but we've been reporting that pretty much all day, that was the likelihood. I can mention with Jimmy, I'll drop this little bit of information here that you don't get anywhere else. It's not just the knee. His back's been bothering him. The knee actually feels pretty good. Maybe the back's bothering him because he's carrying this franchise at the moment. But we are expecting him to play.
The whole city almost.
He was questionable. And then, Timmy, you've informed me, Paul George is playing, Kawhi Leonard is not, right? All right, so let's settle this here. This team is not in great shape. A prominent member of the Heat organization referred to their performances earlier this week in Memphis and at home against Detroit, as dreadful. It feels like the sky is falling. How did they get it right tonight?
Honestly, every time I think they're going to get it right, they lower lead to the Pistons. They lose to the Morant-less, JJ-less Grizzlies. At this point, it's just we have to see some type of improvement. And you talk about today, we have to figure out why when Hero plays well, the team doesn't. Like his numbers are great, but it's just not transferring into wins. Baum is doing what he wants to do. Hero's doing what he's supposed to do. It's so many issues that I just can't pinpoint one. And it's like when they focus on fixing one issue, something else opens up. It's like, when you're muted, Ethan, can't hear you.
I'm going to stop you just and let you keep going here, but it's funny that you say that, because when I was talking to someone inside the organization today, they described the situation as whack-a-mole, which is exactly what you're saying. That basically they fix one thing. You hit
one, but then one pops up somewhere else.
Well, exactly. I mean, even tonight, like they don't have Lowry, they don't have Vincent, right? And you mentioned the Hero thing, and I've been harping on this, and Tyler's taken it personally, but it's not meant as a shot to Tyler. They're not playing well when he's scoring, okay? They're averaging in the 8 wins he's played in, he's averaging 15. In the 9 losses he's played in, they're averaging 25. Now, he's averaging 25. Now, it was explained to me as a partial explanation, is that some of the games that he's scored and they've lost, Jimmy hasn't played. So he's had to score. Okay. Tonight is a little different because they're both playing. So I want to see how that goes.
Yeah, I guess tonight he's going to be point guard. Tonight he's going to play the point guard, and then you have Depot playing some games.
Yeah, they'll have him. They'll have Depot. They'll have Drew Smith probably coming off the bench, I think, in some capacity if they need an extra point guard just to plug for a few minutes. I do think, though, that this is something they've got to figure out with Tyler because it does seem like a lot of guys are kind of standing around while he's scoring, and that's not an effective strategy here going forward. I don't think it's necessarily selfishness on his part. I think he's taking the reins at times because no one else can. But it doesn't look like they're kind of all on the same page right now. It doesn't look like the four of them, when they all do play together, that it works very well. And then ultimately, they haven't had the four of them together most of the season. Let's look at this Clippers team here, though, a little bit, Timmy, if we can. Reggie Jackson has typically torched the Heat. So that's a little bit of a concern there, I think. John Wall's been playing reasonably well of late. What concerns you about the Clippers?
Everything, I usually call them like Kentucky or Popeyes. They have the most wings in the league. So much so that Rocco doesn't even get any minutes at all. Like he would be probably the starting power forward on the Heat or the Suns right now, and he cannot even get in the game. But yes, he'll play tonight without Leonard. But Batum, people forget about Batum. Made some game-winning plays last night. And you have Zubac who could get 20. We always give up like humongous rebounding games. He just had 30 and 20 like just a week ago. So this is one of the teams that could exploit really all of the Heat's weaknesses, which is so. I just don't want to get a 40 piece like the Celtics and the Suns last night, but it can get pretty bad pretty fast. Still new to Ethan, can I hear you?
Zubac's had a big game about a week and a half ago. I went to Prize Picks and looked. He's at, I think, 11.5 points tonight. I would play that over. I feel like he'll get there tonight. But again, looking at this game, we always talk about when the Heat are playing against a team that's missing guys, they struggle. They play down to competition. The Heat can't play down to anybody right now. Like this is now. I'm watching Boston play last night.
They are the floor. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. They're five are on the floor. You're exactly right because I'm watching the Boston game last night and I'm like, how did the Heat beat this team? Like, how did that happen? Unless the Celtics just played really poorly that night.
Pride. They wake up for the Celtics, but nobody else.
So, all right. So let's go forward on this. And again, obviously Miami needs a win. They've got the Spurs coming in this weekend. Do you look at this as hopeless as so many Heat fans seem to over the past 24 hours?
Not hopeless, but there is something wrong, and there's too many. In the past, you could point at one or two things like, okay, that's wrong, fix that. This is wrong, fix that. But you just can't. Like, you have your big four who played well in the Boston game. They're doing their job. It's not as simple as just getting a power forward or getting a backup point guard or getting a bench scorer. It might be all three. And you just really can't do all of that with one deal, with two deals, with one signing. So it's to the point where you have to, I guess, pick two of the things that you can fix and fix those, and then just see what you have. But we're pretty close to a lost season because you don't want to wait till January 15th. Well, you really have to, I guess. And that's about 20 games from now. You don't want to be in so big of a hole where when the Heat miss the playoffs by a half a game. Like, you don't want that.
It does feel like in the conversations I had today, because, you put out a podcast like we did last night, which, blames a bunch of people. Then you start hearing from a bunch of people today, some of whom are blamed and some of whom are just associated with blaming. And so we have a lot to follow up on here over the next couple of days, but I can tell you that the one consistent thing I heard was nothing's happening now. You mentioned January 15th. I don't think there's going to be any significant changes before now and then. I know they signed Stanley Johnson to a G League deal today. I think they could take a look at him before that. They are not going to pay the tax, so they're not going to put themselves in a position where they're going to have to go over and then have to kind of work their way back down. So that's something to consider here. But essentially, they're waiting to see if their guys can get healthy because they need a control group. Like even when I talked about the Tyler thing, what I was told was, we don't know because there's always a piece out, right? So we don't know. Like, yes, we may come to the conclusion that Tyler in the starting lineup is not working. Maybe it's not his fault, but it just doesn't work. But until the rest of the starting lineup is there with him, we can't tell because it's always somebody else who's out. So then you're expecting him to do some other things. So I don't think there's going to be massive changes here. I think that this is going to be about trying to, basically do things harder, do things better, do things more connected, show some pride, which they haven't shown much this season, except for a couple of games. And then, yes, after January 15th, when everybody is possibly tradable, I think that they will look to make some kind of a move. But I'm with you and Greg on this now. The one move, just getting a power forward, does not solve this. They are in a position where they're going to have to make sort of a cluster of moves together. More so, maybe something like what we saw with the Winslow, James Johnson, Dion Waiters going out and bringing in Crowder and Iguodala. Or if you go back a few years, all the way back to Tim Hardaway being acquired and 5 players for 5 players. You look at after the 2005 season, 2004, 2005, trading for
the biggest trade of all time.
Biggest trade of all time. Jay Will, Antoine Walker, Gary Payton coming in a free agency, etc. It's going to be more like that, I think, at this point. I don't think they see it as just like we got one player. I mean, they want to make it clear to me, and I understand this, that Heat fans are complaining about the PJ Tucker thing, and they're saying to me, well, who would you have rather had, Caleb Martin or PJ Tucker? Because in their view, that was the choice.
Yeah, I early in the season, I'm completely over the PJ Tucker thing. I'm happy they didn't make that trade. Like I have no qualms about them not doing that, and I love the Caleb signing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just think that at this point, you put Caleb in the wrong role. You maybe have Tyler in the wrong role. You have Jimmy and Bam who don't have great offensive chemistry together. We've discussed that. You have Kyle Lowry who's played better of late, but doesn't seem to have any chemistry with Hero. And then you have Duncan Robinson, who they're not trying to recoup any value there at this point. They have basically, if you watch him on the court, they're not running anything for him. I mean, he's just out there to space, but it's not even any gravity anymore because they're not running the dribble handoffs. They're not like they used to. They're not running him through a bunch of screens. He's just there to have sort of a warm body who can shoot a little bit, and he's not shooting particularly well. All right, let's get to it tonight. You know what? Let me get to some of the comments here. I can read them. I appreciate Manny producing tonight, but let me just get through a couple of the comments here. Mac for a better tomorrow. Will Spo ever play Jovic to initiate the offense? We could see him a little bit tonight. I think it depends on whether Dedmon plays or not and whether Zubac is kind of going off. But I do think we could see Jovic a little bit tonight. So I think that's an option. Manny, throw another one up if you can, and I'll get to him. Have we already seen the ceiling with Duncan and Strus in the starting lineup? Strus isn't going to be in the starting. Neither of them is going to be in the starting lineup long term. But this is very clear. The plus, I think Matt from Hardwood Peroxy, I can never pronounce. Matt Moore. He put something on there about the net rating for Lowry, Bam, Jimmy, and Caleb is excellent this year. If you plug Strus in with it, it's still excellent. If you plug Hero in with it, it's not. Okay, it's okay. It's not great. So I think that there is going to be some consideration to a starting lineup tweak, but I think they want to look at the entire starting lineup for a longer period of time. Let's take 2 more here before we go. Do you think we'll actually shoot over 30% from the three-point line today? I will say this, Donut Dan. If they don't, they will not win. They won't win because the Clippers have too many athletes, like you mentioned, Timmy. They got too many wings. Miami's going to have to shoot the ball well tonight. They don't want to get in a track meet with this team. Ty Lue will mix and match. So they have to shoot the ball better from the outside tonight. And I don't know that Robinson's going to play or not, but they got to get better shooting from Strus for sure. And then from Tyler. Why all of a sudden can't this team hit threes anymore? They don't know either. I would say that's one of the questions I asked today. I know Alex focused on that a lot yesterday on the podcast. But I'll say this, Timmy. They didn't shoot the ball well in the playoffs last year either.
Yeah, so I think it's just they've hit the wall. Like I don't think there's no climbing over the wall anymore. There's no more going backwards. They've just rammed into the wall, and they just can't break through.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, what do we think tonight before we go on? Again, use the code 5 at Prize Picks.
Loss. It's a loss. I don't see. I'm sorry. At this point, I just don't want it to be embarrassing.
Wow, this is where we're at. Well, I'm not there. That should probably help. Gad's in my place tonight, so we'll see if they can get back on track here. I don't have a great feeling about it, but I'll say this: they've had a chance when Jimmy's played this year. So unless there's some kind of hang up here in the next 45 minutes, I've been told all day he was going to play. So if he plays, he needs to settle them down. I've been told his knee feels 100% right now, so that's good.
You got to hope the weight of the offense doesn't cause any spasms.
I think that's what's caused it. All right, thanks to Timmy. The regular crew will be back here tomorrow. I'm doing post game tonight with Brian Fonseca and with Frankie G from Miami Heat Beat. A little bit of crossover here tonight after the game, giving Greg the night off. Have a good day, everybody.